Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we're talking with Kristin Carter. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing so good today. It's a beautiful sunny day in Vancouver and we haven't seen one in a while, so couldn't be better.
We've got 2 inches of snow, I think, outside still because we had this
Oh,
random
amazing.
snowstorm happen. So it's the weekend
Oh
at
my
least. I can
gosh.
say that.
Yeah, at least there's that going on. The snow can be fun. The snow is good too. No complaints about that, but it is nice, every once in a while when the sun peeks out, it just like totally, completely invigorates me. I'm realizing how much I miss it because it's so
Mhm.
gray here so much.
Well, we were completely melted for about 3 weeks or so. There was not a lick of snow on the ground, and then all of a sudden, a rainstorm, and then snowstorm hit overnight, and now we have snow again.
What can you do? Classic
Mhm.
Canada.
Yeah, exactly. So we're here today to talk about you, about your music, and about what you do in the world. But for those who are new, could you give a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kristin Carter, and I've just released my first debut album today called Full Bloom. It's a pop contemporary album that I've been working on for a few years. Myself, as an artist, I've been involved with music my entire life, but mostly kind of did all my training and things like that in the choir world, which I super, super love. I would encourage anyone who ever wants to learn how to sing in a super safe environment where you can be buried with like 60 other people around you. It's just the best way to learn because you can make all the mistakes and you don't have to worry too much about it. But that was
Mhm.
kind of my musical journey growing up. I sang in choirs for many, many years. And then slowly kind of, as I went to university and things like that, started writing for myself. And exploring performing by myself, and kind of led me all the way through to here. And now I'm releasing my album. I'm super excited.
Nice. I was listening to it before the interview. Sounds great. Like I'm loving
Oh,
it so
thank
far.
you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So I'm curious. You started out as a country artist, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I did. And this album really for me was um, so great because it was just so exploratory. And so I grew up listening to a ton of country music like Faith Hill, The Chick, Shania Twain, all of those amazing 90s powerhouse influences was kind of my growing up. And I just loved that. But I also had a ton of other influences in my life. Like I said, I did a lot of choir stuff. So I was really into kind of some choral classical stuff. And also musical theater, and I was super into R&B as well. So for me, when I began writing Full Bloom, I went pretty limitless with what I wanted it to be in terms of a genre, so I could have the creative exploration that I wanted to have there, and be really flexible to incorporating a lot of my different influences, and kind of creating music that was really really from the heart for me. So yeah, it kind of evolves over time, but for me that's all part of the fun of being a creative, is just kind of following my passions and instincts. So that's how Full Bloom kind of pieced together. And there really is, like, each song I think is sonically very different. So there's some on there like Lazy Sunday that I think has some pretty obvious, I guess, R&B type influences, and then there's ones like Love You Forever that are still very country, that have like a slide on it and all that. So yeah, it's a good representation, I think, of someone who grew up listening to all sorts of things.
And I was listening to some of them, and you definitely can feel like that country country vibe. But like nowadays, country's mixed genre, anyways. Like it's not even
Totally.
its own thing. So in your music, I felt that just listening to it of that country storytelling, but with that pop feel to it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. That's one thing that I love most about country music, is it is such a storytelling genre, kind of at its front and foremost. I mean, I think all music tells stories and evokes emotion, but country does really have that storytelling element. So I really love that you picked that out there. That's great.
hmm So when you were putting together the album, like what's your process like trying to piece together something like this?
Yeah, that's a great question because we had a bunch of songs and we kind of had to narrow it down, and that's always really really hard, because you end up getting attached to certain songs, or certain ones. My co-producer and I, Marcus Ramsey, like there was some that he was really loving and others that I was really into, and it's really hard at the point when it's just like an acoustic track and a voice note on your phone to know which
Mhm.
ones are going to be the ones and which ones aren't. And it's funny because it kind of flips in that process too. Like you start out thinking that some, you're like, for sure these are the ones that need to go on there, and then there's others that are kind of like not as, like, don't stand out as much to you, and then by the time all the production's on it, you're like, okay, no, I love that one the most. So it really all kind of changes as you develop. But
Mhm.
to put it together, really what we did is we just kind of took the whole list of what we were working on, and then kind of went through and just leaned into the ones that we were feeling really passionate about and feeling really excited about. There's definitely a couple that I hope I get to put out someday in another format or some other place. But we followed it that way, and it kind of ties into the idea of the full album being full bloom. For me, represents like a sonic garden, and each one of the tracks are a seed that's kind of been planted and nurtured over time to hopefully get to the stage of a full bloom and of a flower. And the diversity between the tracks sonically for me was representative of all the different flowers in the garden. You have some that are just like really energetic and bright and colorful. I would liken that to like Euphoria on the album. And then there's some that are a bit more personal and a little bit more like understated, like Kintsugi, for example, which is a bit more of a relaxed track. And so for me, that metaphor was really important to try and get all of those diverse emotions and themes, because it represented a garden of all different kinds of flowers, which you really need, because a garden of just one flower would be pretty boring. So you kind of need
Yeah.
all the other ones.
So would like when you guys were liking certain songs, did you bring some to him and he brought some to you that you just were like, man, you're crazy. This isn't gonna fit?
Yeah, I think a bit of a mix. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we do, it can vary. So sometimes I'll have an idea in my head, like a little melody or something, and I'll bring that to Marcus and we'll kind of work on it. Um, or I'll have a lyric statement that I'm really excited by, or a theme that I get really excited about, and I want to keep kind of flushing it out and trying to make a full song with it. And then other times, yeah, Marcus will send me a little snip of some instrumental stuff that he's working on, and I'll, if I'm feeling really stoked about it, then I'll write to. So that's how, like Lazy Sunday, for example, he sent me kind of that bass, like boom, boom, boom. He kind of like sent that to
Mhm.
me, and then I was like, oh, this is cool. This is really funky. And then I wrote the lyrics to it after. Whereas, like Kintsugi, for example, I had the lyrics first, and then we kind of created the music around it. So it really varies. And yeah, we definitely disagree sometimes. Like sometimes I'll send things to him, and I'm like, this is the one, and he's like, that's not the one. So
Yeah.
it's all part of just working with people. Everyone has different opinions, but it was all just really, really great and collaborative and joyful to kind of create something like that together. Because we've been playing around the bars in Vancouver forever. So, or I guess not forever, but for a long time. So it was really nice to be able to put a creative project together with him.
Hmm. Now, the first song I listened to of yours goes back to 2019 with your cover of God's Country. I'm curious how you think your music has evolved from that point to the release of this album.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely evolved in terms of exploring like different genres. I think that one kind of lived a bit in the country genre, like pretty solidly.
Hmm.
But I think it's actually pretty consistent in terms of vocalization and different elements, because that one has like that really booming chorus that goes like up really high. And for me, that I draw on a lot of my musical theater background to kind of get up to those big notes and the belting notes. And I think actually a lot of that is still influenced inside of Full Bloom. So, for example, at like the end of Your Side of the Blue, there's a big belting section that kind of uplifts and draws up. So yeah, I think it is different in terms of the shift from how it's evolved from that to kind of exploring other different sounds that might not necessarily be one and the same as the cover of God's Country. But I think the vocalization elements are still very much the same in a lot of ways, because I like to try and sneak the big notes in there. I like
Hmm.
them. No, they're
And
fun to sing.
you hit those well too. I like the
So
way
thank
you
you.
you project those for sure.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, it's definitely, that's always my most nerve-wracking part of performing, is when the big notes come up, because they're always the ones where it's like, okay, if you fail, you're gonna fail really loudly, because you
Yeah.
have to just go with like a full chest. And it's
Hmm.
happened, like it's definitely happened. But yeah, it's always kind of that moment where you're just like, it's a little out of your control. You're kind of feeling how your body's feeling in the moment. And you're like, is it gonna have it? And you just kind of go for it. And I've been lucky that most of the time, hopefully that I hate it, so that's
Hmm.
good. But you never know.
Now, outside of music itself, like the processes and everything, how do you think you've grown as a musician?
Oh, I think in a lot of, yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, like one of the things that was most exciting about this project in terms of myself as a musician was that I stepped into that co-producing role, which I hadn't really ever done previously, and that was really exciting for me, and also a bit vulnerable, because um, you know, I got really into the weeds of like the technicality of things and you know, learning how to use all the software and the systems. And I did quite a bit of the recording for it at my house, like in my bedroom and things like that, you know, when we were trying to figure out how to get harmonies in there. And so for me as a musician, that was a really exciting element because I felt very independent. Like I felt very, even though I had a lot of support and a lot of amazing, talented people that were also contributing, I felt like I really had you know, I was adding a new element that I had never added before and kind of gained a new confidence in learning all of that. So I'm excited to keep going with it and see where it goes. Because yeah, it was really fun to learn about all the different acoustics and some of the stuff. I think people would laugh if they saw like a video of me recording, only because like I was under like I put like a blanket on my head or whatever to get the right sound
Mm.
going and things like that. You know, you have to kind of DIY a lot of it. But yeah, it was a really great learning experience. I'm super grateful that I kind of pushed myself out of my comfort zone to get there.
Yeah, I think those type of like recording experiences, DIY things makes that story more interesting when you're telling it to people too.
Yeah, totally, totally. Like for I'm Still Here, for example, we uh that song is when we got the instrumentals back. Originally it had a beautiful instrumental that was gonna go with it. But there was something wrong with the recording when we had done it, so we weren't able to use it. And we were kind of at a point where we're like, okay, well, we can't really rebook the studio time, and I don't really know how we're gonna solve this. And so I took I kind of opened Logic, and if anyone's ever opened Logic before, like the editing software, and seeing like a blank slate, it's super intimidating because you're just like, oh my gosh, like how do I make this into a song? Um, and I just started to record my voice mimicking the instruments because I wanted to send it to Marcus to be like, can you play this? And so I just layered it, and I was like, I wanted this to sound like this here and these things. And then I sent to him, and he's like, I think we should just do that, like just like you know redo it and redo it properly, but let's build the whole thing with just your voice.
Okay.
So I think it in the end, like there's always little surprises like that happen when you're kind of doing it yourself and doing it in that kind of DIY way. And that one for me is, I think, the best example of that because that ended up being what we did for the track. It doesn't have any instruments on it at all. It's all just built by the voice, kind of as like a happy accident, really.
That I see. That's a fun story. Not, you know, nobody else would have known unless someone asked, really.
Yeah, yeah. And it's always kind of funny to me when people are like, oh, is that like are there some strings underneath there? And I'm like, nope, just layers and layers and layers of myself. But I mean, I'm always, that's such a compliment, right? If someone thinks that maybe there is, and that's, yeah, just so cool to hear.
hmm Now, music itself is a crazy, you know, tumultuous place that in this world now. What do you do to stay grounded outside of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's funny because I think music is a big part of how I stay grounded because it feels very cathartic for me. And that's why so much of Full Bloom is very centered on these intense themes and experiences because for me it's that's the way that I like to process my emotions. But you're so right that within that music can be entirely like crazy and difficult and you know so challenging sometimes to pursue and to make. And so outside of that, I love to do yoga. I'm a big hot yoga person, which I never thought I would be, but I just really enjoy it. It just like I find it very meditative, and I think it's really good to sweat. I just find it just very comforting. So I've taken up a lot of that. And outside of that, I don't do too much athletics. An athlete is one thing I am not. I would love to be athletic, but I am not gifted in that way. I will try my best. I'll try anything, but I'm never good. but
Mhm.
but you know, so getting outside. There's obviously lots of beautiful hikes around BC, so try to enjoy the outdoors here and get by the water. I grew up by the beach in a little ocean town. Just outside of Vancouver. So I kind of always find when I go back to the water, I feel really calm and really grounded. So try to take lots of walks near there. And other than that, probably just go visit with my mom and have tea, really.
Yeah, I mean, those are just nice things that help you not think about things sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, because writing and music is so important, what do you think's one of the hardest parts of actually writing a song?
Yeah. I think for me, it's when you're dealing with really important or sometimes heavy topics and finding the confidence to know whether you've treated that topic with respect and whether you've written it in a way that isn't so on the nose that it might turn people off, but in a way that people can listen to it and hear it and absorb it and know what it's about without potentially like just saying things directly. So one of the songs, Kintsugi on the album, is about like the experience in the world for women and how kind of complicated and complex that can be. And so I spent a lot of time kind of crafting the lyrics to make sure that I was, writing that in a way that was really authentic to my experiences, but also generally people's experiences. Because I find sometimes, if for me personally, like if I get too personal with it, then it might not connect with other people, right? Because it becomes really specific. So I think that's one of the big challenges is, writing about things that are important to you while still having that mindset of things being universal, and trying to get the messaging across, but still leaving it open for people to interpret their own experiences in that. So it's always a journey. But yeah, I do find that challenging to get that right. And I don't know if there is a right answer. I think it's always a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's because it's such a personal thing. It's hard to quantify that for other people if their own experiences are different, really.
Yeah, exactly.
I like see, it's the first time I've asked that question too, and I've never even thought about it before, but I I hate writing sometimes, so I don't know how you guys did that.
I mean, it's tough. And for a while, I would struggle too with like a bunch of half written songs. Because I think that's the other thing that it's really tough is confidence. Like I'll write a song and I'll start to read halfway through it and I'll be like, this sucks. Like, what am I doing? I'll just
Mhm.
kind of start over, or I'll second guess a lot of it. So what I started to do was to try to challenge myself to just finish it. Like, even if halfway through I'm like, okay, this is not it and I'm not getting it or something's not clicking here, just finish the song, get from the top to the bottom and make a whole thing. And then that started to kind of slowly build my confidence back. And I was able to kind of have the confidence to kind of push through the moments where I wasn't feeling too confident in myself or where I started to feel insecure. And I think my songwriting was better for it because I was able to kind of fully complete and fully get through things, rather than abandon them halfway, which is really easy to do. Because yeah, I definitely struggle with always feeling like necessarily amazing about what I'm doing, or I think like it's just like a self confidence thing with anything really. I think you can really relate that to anything.
Yeah, I mean, in the world that I'm in on this side of the camera, there's a lot of things that I can feel exactly those sentiments for everything. I have a million things on the go, and just trying to push myself to finish it's always the key, but doesn't always work that way.
Totally. And you can run into things like imposter syndrome, for example, too. You're like people are so kind. Like sometimes when they introduce me, like friends of mine, they're like, "Oh, Kristin's like a singer," and I'm just like, "Am I?" Right? I'm like, "Am I?" I mean, I do those things, but like, it sometimes feels a bit like an imposter syndrome when someone gives you like that title. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
a lot of a self confidence thing, and sometimes I find I struggle because I don't necessarily have the personality that people expect of like a performer where they want to be the center of attention all the time. Like I think I am a little bit more reserved, and performing for me, while I love it and I just get so much validation from it, and also excitement for people like hearing the music and reacting to the music and seeing how people enjoy it, like that's so exciting for me. But I definitely get so anxious beforehand, and I really have to work on kind of taking it one step at a time, and gaining that confidence in myself. So yeah, it's always a journey, but yeah, great question. It's always a work in progress, definitely.
Mhm. So let's step outside of the music world a little bit here and got some fun questions to pick your brain with a little bit. My
Sure.
favorite one that I ask every interview on the first time, and it's the one's going to make you think the most. What's one
Mm-hmm.
thing you think should be asked more in an interview that's not asked enough?
Oh my gosh, that is a really good question. Um, oh, that one's really making me think.
Hmm.
Hmm. I think for me, like sometimes I really enjoy the questions that are like a little bit outside of the boundaries of music. So I think questions about like day to day life, and also how music kind of weaves into your life. So I know that's a bit general, it's not an exact question, but I think so much of how people come to be an artist, and the work that it takes to get to the point of putting out an album and things like that. I think there's really pivotal moments in people's lives that get them to that point that I think are might seem a little bit insignificant, but are really impactful. So I think maybe that would be the question I would land on, would be like, what was the moment in your life where you knew you were going to take this forward, or what was the changing, when was the time in your life when it really changed, and when your perspective really changed from I just enjoy music and this is a part of my being to I'm going to put something out, or I'm going to start being creative, that kind of thing. I don't feel like I necessarily like I get asked that a lot. And I think it's kind of interesting to walk through all the different people and all the different places that really get you to the point that you're at. And I think it shows, it shows the journey and the person, I think, outside of just like the end product and the creation. So yeah, I think questions like that would be really cool to answer.
You may not realize though, you've gone through a lot of your journey just in the questions that I've already asked at the start of this.
Yeah. No, that's true. And maybe it doesn't need to be a direct question. Maybe it's kind of wrapped up in everything for sure.
Yeah, and this is a nice one for me because as an interviewer, sometimes I can't think of things to ask people half the time. So things
Yeah,
like that are good to sprinkle in periodically, and it helps me build my repertoire a bit more.
definitely. No, it's great. No, I don't know how you do what you do. You must have to like be so like on top of things and like coming up with different stuff all the time. Yeah, it's like you're a writer, a writer of a different kind.
Well, actually, so the interviews started during COVID. So Hidden Beats itself started out as a live event coverage company where
Oh,
we go to
cool.
concerts and do photos and videos and reviews and things like that. So during
Yeah,
COVID, interviews popped up and I really kind of wasn't doing anything at the time. So I said, okay, we'll give it a shot and started doing written ones and then videos. And now we're, I don't know, 4 years deep into doing video interviews. And I think I'm
so cool.
scheduled to do like 200 this year.
Oh my gosh, 200?
That
How do you have time to do anything else?
I'm on track for that. And on top of that, we have, if I'm not mistaken, we've already got 400 concerts like requests put in for different cities and things like that too.
Wow, congratulations. That's so cool. That's
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
kind of hectic and crazy, but it keeps me busy, really.
Yeah, no kidding. I love stories like that too, where it kind of just grows out of something that you never expect, right? It just kind of evolves and becomes what it is. Because I think a lot of times, like, I think back to when I was young and you think about like, what do you want to be? And you kind of think of these like really particular paths of how you get places and do things. But I find most people that I encounter in my life will end up in a job or a position or doing something that they love completely out of circumstance or out of something that happened, or it's like, oh, my friend asked me to do this one thing for them one time, and now I'm a video effects editor or something like
Yeah.
that, where it just kind of snowballs into these things. And I just think that's so spontaneous and fun and unexpected. So congratulations, though. That is so much. That's amazing. That's very cool.
That's quite literally how I started doing this was a friend of mine asked me to shoot one of his hip hop shows he was doing.
Yeah.
I took a
Yeah.
little bit of photography in college. I had a camera, so he's like, "Hey, can you come out and shoot some pictures?" And I said, "Sure." And a couple more shows went down, and I met more people, and now I've been doing this for 10 years.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. And all it really takes too is the confidence to kind of, I think, kind of like call yourself what you're doing too, right? Like you're saying, like, I had a camera and I have these things. And I think that is really like half the battle too. And like, how I said, I felt sometimes a bit taken aback when like Kristin's a singer. It's like, but the more I say that about myself, I think the more confident I'll feel with it. So yeah, I think half the battle is just like, just trying it and doing it, right? There has to be a first time for everything. So
Hmm.
yeah, just definitely going for it. So very cool.
Yeah, it's fun, and I get to meet people like you now, so I learn more about your music, and I've already added Euphoria to my main playlist just because it
Oh,
was a great
thanks.
song when I was listening to it. So
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah,
yeah.
I was begging Marcus to put an arpeggiated bass on something for years. So he finally obliged with Euphoria. I love that one. It's so dancey and fun and upbeat. So thank you so much. Love
I
that.
wrote down like a note. It's to me, I love that type of song because it's a good song when you're just driving, cruising down the road, and you have that kind of fun happiness to the music, and you can just sing along. You can bop your head. It's perfect for just that place in time, really.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. That's like the dream to have people's like driving around in the car song. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I like it for sure. Now, I'm curious, what's one thing on your go-to playlist that people wouldn't expect you're listening to?
Oh, hmm. So I really love musical theater a lot. I'm a huge musical theater fan. And so one song that I often listen to in the car and play in the car is Defying Gravity from Wicked.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so you're familiar with it. It's like the
I have it
big,
on mine.
huge, like, do you?
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, I just love that musical. I was like, I think in my early teens when that came out. And it was just so life changing for me to see like there was two lead women parts, and I was just like, that is so cool. There's like so much choice and all the repertoire was there. And not only that, but it had those like huge notes that Idina Menzel hits, and that's just been such a steady on my playlist for my entire life. So every time I get like a studio alone or a moment alone, I'm definitely singing Defying Gravity or listening to Defying Gravity. And I say that that's probably like my number one song. Although sometimes I worry that like it's definitely loud and I'm just like sitting at the stop sign like yeah, yeah, yeah. Like people are probably looking at me like she's insane. But no, it just feels like water to sing that song. It feels like so refreshing and to listen to it too. So yeah, that's definitely on my playlist and maybe people wouldn't expect it.
Have you heard the Glee version of it?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I
So
like
good.
the vocal notes and stuff that they do within that. Like their tones of their voices
Mhm.
are so unique in some of them. So I actually have
Yeah.
both right beside each other and on my playlist, and sometimes it goes right back and forth, and
Oh,
it's just a
perfect.
good song. I don't know, like I may not look
Totally.
like it, but I love myself some good musical theater type of stuff, or like the I think I have like High School Musical songs on one of my playlists just because
Heck
they
yes.
wrote some of those songs so good, and I don't care if nobody likes Zac Efron or whatever else her name is, but those songs are good songs.
Oh, they are such good songs. And what I love about musical theater generally is it's so dramatic. Like it just leans into the emotions so heavy. And I just love that. So yeah, my favorite High School Musical one is in High School Musical 2, where he's like, bet on it. He's just like going all over the golf course and like fist pumping.
Mhm.
And I think this is amazing. This is so good. Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. I just find it so like all the different instrumentation that's involved with it and just the swells and the dynamics. And it just really gets me like super fired up. You can kind of feel the emotion in the instrumentation of the music in musical theater a lot too. And then usually you have like a really amazing, incredible actor or singer who's portraying the words. So there's that extra element of just, it just kind of like hits you like a truck, the emotions of all the songs. And I have a lot of Glee covers on my list too.
Yeah.
Tons. River Deep Mountain High would be the other one that I
Yeah.
have on there. I think that was a it's maybe a Santana one, but yeah, that one's great.
Yeah, I've got it. I'm sure I've got that on mine too. I think we're probably very similar in some of our music tastes.
We might have the same playlist.
I mean,
We
yeah,
might just have one playlist.
just share that back and forth now.
Yeah, perfect.
So another fun question I have is, since we're talking about movies and things like that, who plays you in the movie of your life?
Oh,
And weirdly enough, these transitions to some of these questions and talking points are purely coincidental, like just the way we're talking through them.
yeah. Um, wow. That's a really great question.
And I think it's harder for you
Hmm.
because of your musical theater background, so you're thinking really into it right now.
Yeah, I'm like maybe someone who I know at least can, or that I'm aware at least that can sing would be good. I think that's probably a big part of my story. Um, I'm gonna say Vanessa Hudgens. I think she's really talented. I think she's so fun, and I think I would just love to see her because yeah, I'm a big fan of her. I think she's really cool. So, and I think I like the way her voice sounds, and we were talking about like High School Musical and all that, and I just think she's great. So, yeah, I'm gonna say her.
Yeah, no, I think that works, and I think she could do your vocals justice in the long run.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I think so. I think she's so talented. One of my favorite performances of hers was the live Grease that they did with her in it. So
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a good one. Sorry, one of my windows just popped up here.
No, it's okay.
Okay, a couple more before we get kicked off here by Zoom. If you were to sell yourself as an action figure, what would your accessories be?
Oh my gosh. Sorry, accessories for an action figure.
Yeah, like so, Barbie might have a purse and some shoes and rollerblades, whatever. G.I. Joe
Oh,
will have
okay.
some guns or something, something that would suit you as an action figure.
Oh, fun. I think I would have a piano. I might have, and I love pink too. So if it was going to be like Barbie themed, then that would be awesome. I think I would do like really. a fun, over exaggerated version of hair. Like we did the Euphoria music video, and I had these big bubble braids, and I just felt so fun. I felt like the Powerpuff Girl I always wanted to be. And so I think I would have like a big piano and maybe have a couple of the keys work, so it could be kind of fun to like bop around on there.
Okay.
And yeah, just have it all like painted and all like shiny and exciting. And yeah, I think that's what I would have. I would have something musical for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's a fun one because people don't expect one. I've asked that a couple times now and see how it works, and just the look on your
Yeah.
face, you kind of went, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought about that before. I don't have a ton of action figures. I have a couple Barbies that I've saved from like trips to Disneyland and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, cool question. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, important one here, and probably the most important of all, or I guess the second most important, we'll say. What do you hope people take away from your music?
Yeah. Um, so I think for me, what I really hope that people take away from Full Bloom is just a gratitude for all the different diverse experiences that make up a full life. Because for me, when I was writing it, I was really, going through a lot of experiences of growth and resilience, and so I think that through writing Full Bloom and acknowledging these things that I had gone through, all the really exciting and the good, and also sometimes the sad and the bad, it just gave me that sense of gratitude for what I couldn't control in my life, and that all of that is what makes up the experience. Like you need the sad and the bad to have the good and the amazing, and it's all important and it all matters. And so I hope that when people listen to Full Bloom, that they kind of walk through that journey for themselves through the different themes of the songs and the music, and have that reflection for themselves for what they've gone through in life and where they're at, to really acknowledge and respect their own journeys and kind of admire what they've been through and where they're going to go, because that's what it is for me. So I hope that people get that, and it's also really layered. The album has a lot of layers to it, so I'm hopeful that when people listen to it, they kind of pick out a few different things each time they go through it, and it's kind of new, or different at least slightly every single time people listen and go through. So that's what I hope people take away.
No, I like that. And last but not least, what motivates you to keep walking this musical road you're walking?
I think because I don't think I would be able to not sing. I know that
Mhm.
sounds maybe a very basic answer, but that's really what the truthful answer for me. I think I really always need to be creating and doing some kind of art, to express myself and to really process the world around me and how I'm feeling it or how I'm kind of walking through life. And so it's it's really important for me to do that, I think, for like my own self-care and things like that. So that's what encourages me to continue to put out music and to create in that way, is because it's very cathartic for me to process everything around me. And so that's really why I continue to do it. And I do get a lot of joy from seeing it impact other people, and having people. Sometimes people are so lovely, they just write like the kindest messages and send me all this information about like, oh, this song reminded me of this and that really helped me, or I did, this really made me think of my mom, or things like that, where it's so special, when that happens, and when that comes through, that I just cherish that so much. And so it's kind of two-sided in that way, where it's for myself and my own personal growth, but also just I get so much joy out of seeing how other people interact with it and how it affects other people. So that's really what it's all about for me and why I continue to do it.
That sounds like a pretty good reason to do it.
Yeah.
So that's all the fun notes I have written down here. Is there any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave to people?
I think just I was gonna leave words of wisdom. Hmm. I think just to be kind to yourself, just to have fun and be kind to yourself. I think it's all of our first time kind of going through life, and we're all just trying our best. And that would be, I guess, my one word of advice to everybody, because it's something that I have to remind myself, to just be kinder to myself, and be you know just, yeah, recognize that it's all part of the journey, it's all part of the work. So that
Hmm.
would be the words of wisdom I would leave. The other would be to try flying. and not in like a like obviously people can't just like take off and fly. But the reason why I pay that is because I'm right now going to classes where I'm training to do like flight for my next music video that I'm doing for Lazy
Okay.
Sunday, and I'm just having a blast with it. Like I never thought in my life that I would be going to like circus school for lessons on acrobatic flying in my life,
Mm.
but I am. So that's really fun. And I actually would so encourage people to push themselves outside of their comfort zone and give it a try because I'm really loving it. So I guess if I could leave people with something that I'm excited about right now, it would be to do that, to give it a try. Very cool.
That sounds incredibly fun, but for myself,
Yeah.
like I hate heights.
Oh,
So
okay. So
so
maybe not your vibe.
I can sit on an airplane comfortably and just put some headphones on and vibe out, but like
Yeah.
doing something like that sounds exciting. I just my body can't do it. I can't get out there and do that. That's the hard part.
Totally get that. Totally get that. Heights has never been one of my things. So I don't know why. It's just nothing that bothers me. But if it did bug you, then yeah, it probably wouldn't be the best thing to try. But maybe a different kind of circus school activity might be for you then. But
Hmm.
yeah.
For sure. Where can people find you on social media?
So on Instagram and TikTok, I'm at Kristin Carter Music, and you can also find mostly everything else about me on my website, thekristincarter.com.
Perfect. We'll make sure to link that.
Thank you.
It was absolutely delightful getting to talk to you and get to know a little bit more about you and learn kind of what you do in the world.
Thank you. You too. No, it was great to meet you and chat. I loved it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to see how this album goes. It's launched today, so we're gonna make sure we link that in the description of the video. If I can get this video out today, maybe I will.
Yeah,
And
that'd be
then,
great.
yeah, if hopefully we get to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I hope so. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. We'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks. All right, thanks so much.
All right, bye now.
Bye.